When I was in third grade, my mother informed us that we would be going out to celebrate. I asked her what the occasion was, and she told us that they had made the last payment on the house and that it was finally ours and not the bank's. I can still see the pride in her face that day. She really made a big deal out of it, and in the process taught my siblings and I a valuable lesson, that debt is bondage. They had paid their house off in 10 years versus the traditional 30. It was not soon after that my dad had an accident on the job where he was disabled and unable to work for a year. This could have been a devastating blow to our family, but because of my parents' wisdom with money and following the counsel of our leaders, they were able to withstand the financial storms that came our way. First, we're going to look at some of the common debts that everyone finds themselves involved with, and then we're going to look at the benefits of being financially free. The first debt that I want to look at is credit card debt. Credit card debt is easy for everyone to receive. It doesn't take a lot to qualify for, and it's readily available. We have all received offers in the mail telling us about some great deal that we can get. They try and lure us in about telling us about perks that we can get from belonging to their club. Frequent flyer miles, low interest rates, and other incentives are attractive enough to fool those of us that want something now without thinking about the consequences. One of the biggest challenges that you're going to face as you begin your life without your parents and start building wealth for yourself is credit card debt. The average U.S. college graduate begins his or her postgraduate days with more than $2,000 in credit card debt. This does not include the possible debt of student loans that they may have incurred as well. The median credit card debt in America is $3,000, and the number of cards held per family is 2. True to the faith, a church publication gives the following additional counsel regarding debt. Some forms of credit, such as credit cards, have particularly high interest rates. Once you are in debt, you will find that interest has no mercy. It continues to accumulate regardless of your situation. Whether you are employed or jobless, healthy or sick, it never goes away until the debt is paid. Do not be deceived by credit card offers, even if they make debt seem attractive by promising low interest rates or no interest for a certain period. If you find yourself in a situation where you are in credit card debt, try and think of ways to cut costs so that you can put more money towards the balance. Wishing for something and doing something to proactively take care of it are two entirely different things. One is going to generate results, while the other is just going to leave you more stressed about the situation than you got yourself into. The second debt that I want you to consider is mortgage debt. The American dream has always included buying a house. Saving up enough for a down payment on your house has always been something that people took pride in. Most of us feel like renting is throwing away our money, but do we know our limits on what we can afford? We also saw the turmoil that occurred with the housing market the last couple of years. People were signing loans that they couldn't afford and that they didn't understand, and as a result, most ended up in bankruptcy. As members of the church, we have been counseled to look to the condition of our finances. Discipline yourself in your purchases. Avoid debt to the extent that you can. In most cases, you can avoid debt by managing your resources wisely. If you do incur debt, such as a reasonable amount in order to purchase a modest home or complete your education, work to repay it as quickly as possible and free yourself from bondage. When you have paid your debts and accumulated some savings, you will be prepared for financial storms that come your way. You will have shelter for your families and peace in your heart. The last debt that I want to talk about is automobile debt. Automobile debt and home mortgages are two of the largest bills that we must carry. For some consumers, the effects of auto debt is sometimes worse than credit card debt. You actually pay for an overpriced product with expensive financing. Automobile requires lots of money for maintenance. From oil changes to tire replacements and tune-ups, we ask ourselves, can we really afford that SUV that is the perfect family vehicle? You pay interest on not only the purchase of the vehicle, but also the insurance, the warranty, and other additional items for something that just depreciates in value. Once more, you owe more for the car than it's worth because the money you get when you sell it is not enough to pay off the loan. As buying and owning a car is expensive, make sure that you have enough money to set aside to make the payments. If you're struggling to make an automobile payment, consider what alternatives you have to reduce debt. This might mean selling your expensive motor vehicle or contacting your lender to refinance the vehicle over a longer period of time with less payment. If you can get rid of your expensive vehicle and you have sufficient funds to pay cash outright for a lower grade but reliable vehicle, then that's a huge impact on your monthly budget. If you can manage with one car rather than two, then offload the one and use the money from that to reduce debt. So why should we strive to be debt-free? There are many reasons why this is important. It allows you more freedom. We've seen companies downsize. We've seen people had to take reductions in pay and found themselves in situations where they were unable to afford their lifestyle anymore. This would not be an issue if people were not so financially strapped and living paycheck to paycheck. Unnecessary debt is a heavy burden to carry during times of economic decline. As President Ezra Taft Benson made clear, many people do not believe that serious recession will ever come again. Feeling secure in their expectations of continuing employment and steady flow of wages and salary, they obligate their future incomes without thought of what they could do if they would lose their job or if their incomes were stopped for some other reason. It is not fair to ourselves or our communities to be so improvident in our spending that the day our incomes stop, we must turn to relief agencies or church for financial aid. When we were buying our first house, my husband and I had enough money to pay off a credit card debt, but we felt like it was better off in our savings account than towards the balance on the credit card debt. After talking to our mortgage lender, we found that we could get a lower interest rate if we paid off the credit card debt. This not only saved us thousands of dollars a year, but tens of thousands of dollars on the loan. This taught me a valuable lesson. That being debt-free will enable you to save thousands on interest, not only with home loans, but car loans as well. As members of the church, we have been counseled, with the exception of buying a home, paying for education, or making other vital investments, avoid debt and the resulting finance charges. Buy consumer durables and vacations with cash. Avoid installment credits and be careful with your use of credit cards. They are principally for convenience and identification and should not be used carelessly or recklessly. The use of multiple credit cards significantly adds to the risk of excess debt. Buy used items until you have saved sufficiently to purchase quality new items. Purchasing poor quality merchandise almost always ends up being very expensive. Debt is something that we can have control of if we exercise judgment and know what we can afford. It is my plea that you know what you can afford and avoid debt so that you and your families can feel the benefits of living without necessary stress. Follow the counsel that we've been given as members of the church, and we will be able to withstand the financial storms that are inevitably going to come.